Hello, William Johnson here. I'm hanging out with a couple of my conga drums, and I had a few thoughts come to mind, and I just wanted to share them with you. So this is more of a video log than anything else, I suppose. Anyhow, I wanted to talk to you about vocabulary, and one of the biggest ways to help increase your ability to express yourself on your instrument, in this particular case, the conga drum or percussion, hand percussion. When I first started out, there was a desire within me to be able to express myself on my instrument. What was in my heart was in my mind, to flow. As the same way that I'm talking to you, I wanted to be able to speak through my instrument. Regardless of whether or not those things that I was saying was interesting to anyone, they were interesting to me as I experimented with them. But my main thing was to be able to express myself. And just thinking back on those earlier times in learning vocabulary, different rhythmic phrases, and the beginnings of my journey, made me think about some ways that may be helpful for those of you that are starting out on the congas, or maybe perhaps hit a plateau in your playing and are wanting to go farther. Now, by no means do I mean that anything that I'm going to say that means that I never hit a plateau or a wall or that I've arrived, and by any means. I definitely have not. And I consider myself a student of the drum, and will always consider myself a student of the drum and a student of music, student of life. When I started out and I started to play a drum, I would play things, but then I would hear myself play and video myself play, but then I would hear the masters. I would hear people I admired, and I aspired to play like them. And I recall playing with a couple people, practicing and taking lessons with a few conga players that I highly admired, and I wondered how they were able to pull so much vocabulary, so many ideas, so many melodic phrases from their drums. Whether they had one drum or just two, it seemed like there was an infinite amount of, and again, I'm using that word, vocabulary that they could use and that they use to express themselves. And for me, I loved it. I could listen to it all day. But when I went to my drum, I felt limited. I didn't feel like I was able to pull that same amount of knowledge out of my drum. And I inquired, where was this vocabulary coming from? And one of the things that I realized as time progressed and I got to certain parts of my journey is that my tempo definitely wasn't as tight as I thought it was, my timing. And I needed to work on that. But another thing wasn't definitely where I thought it was, and that was my rhythmic vocabulary. I'm talking about actual rhythms, knowledge and memorization of rhythms, as well as rudiments, which are rhythms. They are melodies and can be played as rhythms and melodies. But my actual knowledge, like just to be able to play it upon command, or say that rhythm and then play it upon command and then show it and present it, was more limited than I realized. And when I acknowledged this, when I realized this, and when I began to work on it, is when my creative expression began to explode, if you will. So what I realized, however, was this major thing when it came to that, because it wasn't like I had an epiphany, oh, I just need to learn more rhythms. Oh, I need to learn more rudiments. But what I realized is how much I knew those rhythms was limited. It needed to come up higher. If I were to ask you where you met your wife, if you're married, or a greatest time in your life where you were happy, or when were you born? Where are you from? What's your name? If I were to ask you things that are intimately close to you, you really don't have to think about them. Sure, there are things, if you're going through a certain kind of anxiety or stress, or if you get put on the spot, these things may not come to you that quickly. But the things that are very intimate and close to you, the things that you walk with on a day-to-day basis that are very personal to you, you don't have to think that hard for them to just come up and come right off the tip of your tongue. You say them. I was born in so-and-so, raised in so-and-so. The first time I met my wife was in so-and-so. I remember the day my children were born. I remember when I bought my first drum, or it was gifted to me, whatever the case may be. When you learn a new rhythm, when you learn a new rudiment, it has to become like that. I'm not saying that it becomes as important to you as when your children were born. But what I am saying is, it can't be something that you have to strain to think about. It has to be part of you. And the only way it's going to become a part of you is that if you get lots of repetition. And in order for that repetition to really take place, it goes back to something that I've spoken about before, and that is the importance and the power of routine and staying committed to that routine. But you have to know that rhythm or rudiment so well that you could play it and someone could walk in the room and you could have a conversation while they're telling you something. For instance, if I were to use a rudiment, let's just say just basically something that I just went over, like left, right, right, left. Now, that's just a few notes, but I can play that and lock in over and over and loop it and stay on tempo. And someone can come up to me, or I can sit here and talk to you. I could do this, lock in the tempo, 1, 2, 3, 4. And go right back into it. Now, I worked on my timing and my ability to count. Even if I was off a little bit, it still felt like I picked up where I left off. I was able to do that because, yes, I developed my ability to count, but also I don't have to think about what I'm getting ready to do. Now, if you have that, and then you combine that with, okay, so let's just say I practiced this movement. And I did that over and over, okay? Now, I developed my ability to count, but I have 2 rudiments I just showed you. And, okay? So now I can put them together in various ways within a rhythm because it's just like a word I've memorized and how I'm talking to you. I have an idea I'm getting across to you. I don't have to think about the words I need to use to get it to you, like get to you. I could just say get to you. I have a thought and then I use those words. Those words have been learned over years and years of years, from elementary school all the way up to being a grown adult, right? So I could take these 2. And now I'm able to use, just because in my practice, I take various rhythms, rudiments, and I practice those rudiments in a time frame over and over within the confines of a routine that is daily until I have that particular rhythm, just as an example, okay, or over and over until I don't even have to think about it. I know it as intimately and as personally as the information on my driver's license. Okay? Now, I couldn't tell you what my driver's license number. Well, yeah, I could tell you what my driver's license number is, but I'm talking about your date of birth and your eye color and all that those kind of things. So these are the things that have to happen. Repetition, repetition, over and over. But what is the repetition? Vocabulary, the rhythm, the phrase. Okay? So we have to build up a vocabulary of phrases. Now, when you go online and say you go on YouTube or you buy a DVD, you go on Amazon, there is no dearth of information, and it can be overwhelming and daunting as far as what do I pick up? What do I choose? What do I choose to learn? Well, one place that you can start is by listening to songs that move you. Is there percussion in there that moves you? Okay, I went over a series on Africa by Toto. Perhaps you love the way Lenny Castro is playing, and that leads you to other songs like that, and you love his style of playing. Well, I'm willing to bet that Lenny Castro, within that style, playing has various rhythms that he tends to use over and over, and just variations. Now, someone as versatile as him can play however many variations he wants, however other many different styles, and he can become like a gecko, or he can camouflage where you wouldn't even believe it's him. But overall, there's a style that Lenny Castro or any other player that you may admire has. And so what you want to do is take that song, learn the rhythm, try to learn the rhythm in that song, or watch videos of that person, and try to find little things that are within the playing. You want to find little areas or little rhythms within that. Practice that song over and over. If that particular player that you admire, like let's say it's Lenny Castro, find out if they have a DVD, an instructional DVD. Giovanni Hidalgo is a great example. He has many instructional DVDs where he breaks down different things that he does. And you can learn those things and become a student of those rhythms. And this is a way to build your vocabulary. So these are just a few thoughts. Building vocabulary, and when you see these players and they're able to solo and they have no limit to the amount of information they can throw out there, different phrases or whatnot, well, they're not pulling it out of a miraculous well. It was vocabulary that was learned. Vocabulary. So just a few thoughts on that I wanted to leave with you, things that have helped me and gave me a direction of where to go in studying. This has been great hanging out with you, giving you some thoughts in my mind. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. God bless you, and I'll see you soon.